In the new edition of Warhammer 40K, there's going to be a lot of shooting. A lot of shooting. Hey everyone, welcome to another video discussing the new 8th edition rules. As always, my name is Jay. I figured I should keep doing this series. Unfortunately, it's been a week and a half since I've last been able to put up videos, so it's okay. So let's get right back to where we were before and discuss the new rules of Warhammer 40K 8th edition. So in this video, I'll talk about the shooting phase, the charge sub-phase, and then the assault phase. Basically, the last three phases of the turn, and then in future videos, we'll talk about the other things that GW has been posting about the new rules. So the shooting phase is similar to the old shooting phase, obviously, because it's it's the most used phase of the game, basically, in Warhammer 40K. 7th edition was really focused on shooting, and I think 8th edition is going to be very focused on shooting as well. There will be some cool elements of assault, but the fact that you can walk out of assault, as I mentioned in my last video, is going to be a huge hit to assault armies, because shooting armies will just be able to step back and blow them out of the water. So, we'll see. So, yes, so the shooting phase, there have been some changes, obviously, as we discussed in the weapon profiles and stuff, that certain weapons can cause multiple wounds, and of course there's save modifiers, etc. They've also changed a couple small things, like you can't shoot if you are basically engaged, and by engaged means a model is within 1 inch of you. Pretty simply, you move away from them and then you can fire. However, you can still shoot pistols, even if you are currently have somebody 1 inch away from you. So models with like 2 pistols, they use Cypher as an example, will be pretty fun in the new edition. The fixed ballistic skill, again, makes sense. And you can't shoot, of course, if you advanced or fall back from combat. Makes sense. You can't shoot if an enemy model is within 1 inch of you, as I mentioned, except for pistols. And when picking a target, you won't be able to shoot enemies that are in combat with other units, of course, much like current edition. However, you can fall back from the combat movement phase, allowing all the other units to shoot at them, which is crazy, so there's no more tar pitting. Yeah. Heavy weapons are of course, an interesting focal point too. Rather than snap firing every time you moved, it's just a -1 modifier to your shooting. If you move, so if anything with a heavy weapon moves, including vehicles, it's -1 to the shooting, to the ballistic skill for that turn. So that's not bad, because Space Marines will still hit on 4s. Not bad at all. And of course, smoke launchers will also be a modifier, like a -1 as well to hitting. The big change I found was actually cover. The reason is cover is no longer a save; it's a save modifier. So what you typically would do is you would take your armor save and then subtract, if it's a high strength weapon, and then you would add based on cover. So it's just a save modifier now, and only certain models can qualify for certain cover saves. For example, only infantry can have cover from craters, for example. So pretty interesting stuff there. So that basically means las cannons will still be pretty effective in the new edition. As I said, the shooting is going to get very strong in this new edition. I don't think the assault will be as strong, because if your opponent can simply walk out of combat, and we'll discuss the next part as well in the shooting, the charge sub phase. But what do you think? What do you think about the new rules regarding the shooting phase? Of course, I'm going to do a full review when the rules actually come out, but it's been kind of fun to talk about these rules ahead of time. GW's been really transparent, and I really appreciate that. It's been really cool to talk about it ahead of time. So next we'll talk about the charge phase. Now the charge phase acts in a very similar pattern to the previous one. You choose a target, roll 2d6, add them together, charge in. Now you can't finish your movement within 1 inch of a model you haven't declared a charge against, which would technically be engaging it. So you have to call all the charges ahead of time, and Overwatch is going to be nuts now, because you can Overwatch unlimited amount of times providing you're not engaged, which they gotta nerf Tau. Like everyone's first inclination when this thing came out was Tau, because Tau's insane combined Overwatch is just nuts. And so what you would do is you typically send a sacrificial unit, at the squad first, which absorbs the firepower and dies, but then the other ones charge in, or they engage, and then you charge in with the rest. The big problem now is your opponent can overwatch as many times providing they're not engaged. So if you try to do a sacrificial unit and it blows them out of the water, then you charge another unit, they can shoot as well. And that's pretty scary. So, and it's once again, 6 is still to Overwatch. There might be modifiers as well. I don't know, we'll have to see. You can't move within 1 inch of a model you declared a charge against. So, yeah, that's it. So it's very similar. The big change, of course, is the fact that unlimited Overwatch is providing you're not engaged. So I'm wondering what they're going to do with Tau, because that would be just too strong. I don't mean to pick on the Tau or Eldar as well, but the problem is with both of them is that they would just blow you out of the water by shooting. If you actually engage them, they walk out of combat and blow you out of the water. I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna have to see how that one works. Definitely. And the next part we're gonna talk about is the assault phase. Since we figured out we're already here, so let's go to the fight phase. And yeah, let's talk about the fight phase. So, this is my favorite phase of the game, and I was really hoping that in 8th edition they bring it back to a balance of assault and shooting. I think it's still really favoring the shooting size. What do you think? But yeah, I still think so. And we'll go over the new rules about assault. Obviously, as we mentioned, there's no more initiative. Whoever assaults gets to attack first. The only downside to that is, though, you assault on your turn. And if your opponent doesn't like the order, which you wouldn't, or the other opponent wouldn't like the order of you going first, they're most likely going to just step out of combat. And when they do that, the rest of their army assaults you and destroys you or shoots you to death. So I don't know how that's really going to work, because it's just going to be a bunch of, like, you assault in, I back off, my other squads assault you, you back off, and so forth. I guess we'll just keep punching each other into the ground. There's some emphasis on making charge and combat effective. That's true. So units that activate can gain a free 3-inch move, like the pile-in of the previous edition, except you can engage other models at this point. You can bring them into combat during the fight subphase, which is kind of cool. So you don't necessarily have to engage them, but then they said you have to assault, but you can't finish your move within 1 inch of things you haven't declared. However, you can use the 3-inch move to then move within 1 inch to bring in more models. So it's kind of a strategy catch-22 there. That's interesting. So you can drag more models into combat. Of course, they can just walk away next turn, but still, they forfeit their shooting at least in the next phase. Of course, following charges, players take turns to activate units across the board to fight. This can be quite tactical, as both players need to choose, a specific order. So I think you can just, like, I want this squad to go first, and then this one, and, like, it's interesting because there's no initiative, right? I think you just go, I want this one to go first, then your opponent can be like, oh, I want this one to go first, and then it's interesting. I don't know how that exactly works. So do you have to, like, you don't even have to finish a combat before going to the next combat, I guess? It makes it sound like if I want a squad to assault here first, I can choose this one, and then my opponent wants another go first on another side of the table to beat that squad. Maybe that will happen. I don't know. Curious. And of course, there are things that will affect it, like Lash Whips or Slaaneshi Demons, for example. So that's interesting. So I think there's going to be a lot more tactical decisions in the assault phase. You might have to choose a specific order, because otherwise your opponent may want something to go ahead of you. So it kind of becomes a chess match. However, the assault phase may also not be that big of a deal, because I think people are just going to be frequently stepping out of combat. Yeah. So that's my perspective. I think people are just going to walk out of combat a lot. Players will have, of course, the other thing is hit rolls are now fixed. There's no more weapon skill. That, as I mentioned in my video on the profiles, it's not a comparative, it's just to hit. There might be modifiers in the future as well. But like even cool things like Swarmlord, Gilliman, Gospel Thraka, they actually can hit on 2-ups. Pretty cool stuff. And there's going to be like a lot of fixed like 3-ups or 4-ups. Combat weapons will also have some modifiers. They haven't released really what, but some will maybe cause 2 wounds, some will double the strength, etc. I'm guessing like a Power Claw will cause 2 wounds or something. So yeah, so they're gonna make it more interesting, and that's it. So that's, what do you think? So that covers the shooting phase, the changes to the shooting phase, the changes to the assault phase, both the charging and the fight sub-phases. Overall, I think there's still gonna be a huge emphasis on shooting and not as much on assault, unfortunately. Only because, again, the shooting is more powerful. You can overwatch unlimited amount of times providing you're not engaged, and even if you get engaged, all you have to do is survive, and then you can step back and open fire on that squad. So it's going to be really easy to pick off assault squads. Very easy, because you're gonna just get mowed. Like I don't know how that's gonna work with orcs, like, and Tyranids, just assaulty armies in general. I think that the opponent is just going to cower and shoot, and then you assault something else, cower and shoot. There's no way, if there's no way to keep your opponent in combat, there's no way to keep your assault models safe. So I don't know. What do you think? Let's start a discussion. Let's keep talking about Warhammer 40K 8th edition, people. I'm excited. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to have a great time playing. I just, some of these rules, I don't know. I don't know what to think yet. What do you think? So let's keep a discussion going. As always, it's a free content video, so huge thank you to my Patreon subscribers. As their names go by me, link in the description below if you want to help support my Patreon campaign. Stay tuned for more videos. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.